guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be filming a September wrap up and I'm very excited to share with you guys what I read this month. I had a very interesting reading month. It was very good, but there was definitely a roller coaster of reviews and I'm excited to delve into them with you. I don't know if you can tell if you're someone who is into cameras or just quality of videos, but I did upgrade my camera situation. I upgraded my camera to the Canon EOS R50 and then I also got a microphone, so the quality should definitely be very good now. I got my first camera 4 or 5 years ago now and it was a Canon G7X Mark II. It was my first ever camera I bought and I still adore it to this day. I just needed something more reliable because it was getting to the point with it that it was struggling to focus on things and stay focused on things, let alone the exposure just was not very good on it. So I do love it and I still will definitely use it, but this is my new setup and I'm very excited to use it. I was editing this video and I just found that the quality of it was not there, so that is why I decided to upgrade. I knew it was coming. Today was the day, so I thought I'd refilm my video for you all. I will share with you guys the books in the order I read them this month. So the first book being Assassin's Blade by Sarah J Maas. This book is the prequel to the Throne of Glass series, and yes, there is a lot of, not controversy, there is a lot of opinions around what book to read first, and I originally started months ago with Throne of Glass and I had no problem reading that book first. However, I didn't connect with it straight away like I normally do with a fantasy during world building because I found I was confused at all these little inside jokes slash the context of why she was where she was. So when I decided to restart the series, I did my research. There are multiple ways to read it. Some people do it in a romantic order to really get that emotion out of you while just reading the series. Other people read it in some other order where Assassin's Blade is, I don't know what the other order, there's another order, but the order I'm choosing to read it in is chronological order. There are some girlies on TikTok that have said if you really enjoy reading a book in chronological order, your best bet is to start with Assassin's Blade. This book is comprised of about 5 stories from the top of my head. You learn about a new character that is obviously introduced throughout the series. In this book, the background of how they kind of connected, which I think I'm going to thoroughly enjoy more when I get to the actual introduction of the character later on in the series, because then I can go, oh, she already knew him, or kind of that situation. So I honestly am very happy that I chose to do it in this order. Gave this book a 3-star and it was not a terrible 3-star. I just found Sarah J Maas's writing, for me, is very slow at the start but very fast paced by the end of it, and I rated the whole ACOTAR series 5 stars purely because I enjoyed it so much. Even then I would still say the same thing. The start was really slow but halfway through it really picked up for me, which this book did. Some of the stories weren't my favourite, so I think that's why I rated it a 3 rather than a 4, and it's also a prequel, so it's very hard to attach yourself to a story plot when they keep changing every so often. So overall, I have nothing bad to say about it. It did its job and I felt really set up going into Throne of Glass. I'm only 16% of the way through that book. I kind of got distracted by other books that were released. Of what I have read, the context was just so much more clearer and the clarity was just astronomical. So if you are a chronological girly, I would highly recommend reading this one first. Then the next book I read, which I don't have with me because I've lended it out to my nan, is Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score. I gave this book a 5-star read. Like, this series, the Knockmount series, has been my favourite series for so long. I started the series this year with Things We Never Got Over, and then Things We Hide from the Light came out mid-year, and then they've just released Things We Never Got Over. If you have never heard of the Knockmount series, it is based in a town called Knockmount, and the first book follows a guy called Knox and Daisy. Then the second book follows a guy called Nash, which is Knox's brother, and Lena. And then the third book follows Sloane and Lucian, and you find out about them all throughout the books. So this book was a highly anticipated book for a lot of people. I know it was for me, purely because I wanted to know so badly why they hated each other. Like, they loathe each other. So finding out, finally, it just put so much to rest. But this series is so much of a found family book. From the reviews of everyone else, reading the book, they've all said kind of the same thing, where they felt it was quite long, or it took a long time to actually get into Sloane and Lucian's storyline. It was very much looking at Lena and Dash and Daisy and Knox, and I understand where they're coming from, but for me personally, I ate up being able to hear about the other characters. Like, their inclusion in the story just made it more wholesome and very, very found family-esque, if that's even a word. So honestly, I have no bad blood with it. Odie is literally squeaking the toy. I can't give a synopsis of the book, so obviously it gives it away, but I will say, if you are thinking whether or not you can actually read these books out of order, I would highly, highly discourage you of doing that, purely because there's an underlying plotline throughout all 3 books. That's my main reason for it. But also too, you see the characters develop throughout all 3 books, and I feel like it does not have the same effect if you read them out of order. So if you're looking to read the series, please, 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 please read it in the right order. If you don't know what that order is, just look it up. It's so easy. It goes things we never got over, things we hide from the light, and then things we left behind. I'm reeling from the fact that this book is finished and this series is finished, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. The epilogue was just, oh my god, I was literally on the verge of tears. I was so happy with the storyline. There's nothing bad I can say about this book, and when I say it's a 5 stars, I mean it's a 5 stars of comfort, like that comfort 5 stars that brings you so much joy and happiness, not necessarily the oh my god that was incredible kind of 5 star. Don't know why I had to justify that. The next book, which was part of the book club I am a part of, it's with one of my friends called Olivia, and we read Happy Place by Emily Henry. If you don't know what this book is about, this book follows 2 characters, Harriet and Wynne, and their friend group. Their friend group is to stay in a cottage every year. It's kind of like their annual holiday, their way of seeing each other, catching up, just relaxing and unwinding. And this holidays, Wynne and Harriet broke up. And before this holiday, 6 months prior, Harriet and Wynne had called off their engagement. Their friends didn't know about it, and the whole idea was they had in their head that Harriet and Wynne would take turns going to friend events. So the cottage holiday was meant to be the one that Harriet goes on. Harriet arrives and Wynne ends up being there because 2 of her friends are, which I won't spoil because that goes a bit further into the book. But anyway, long story short, the friend group really wanted them all together. So Harriet and Wynne plot to pretend to be engaged still, even though they are not currently engaged. So that's kind of like the background, beginning of the book. I'm not spoiling anything. That was either on the back or the first chapter. And I gave this book 2 stars. Now, before you come for me, everyone has their own opinions on books. Like, and this is just my opinion on this book. I thought the plotline had a lot of potential. The idea of this friend group staying at a cottage each year, like I really thought it would be similar to more so like Love and Other Words. I think that's the book I'm thinking of in the back of my head, where they come back to this place but then you get flashbacks when they were younger in this place, different memories and things like that. But I honestly was just disappointed with it. And even the individual plot lines, so the character development / their own individual issues and traumas, I just felt the way they were written, it was kind of like, this is what it is. Not really, I didn't feel an emotional effect from what was going on. So I just didn't like the writing style of this book, and I think that's my issue with Emily Henry. Is I don't think she's a terrible writer, I just think I don't really enjoy her writing style. I've read Beach Read by her and I did enjoy that book very much, and I've tried to read People We Meet on Vacation but DNF'd it. At the moment I'm going to take a break from Emily Henry. I don't know if I'll buy any of her upcoming books, but I will consider trying to read Book Lovers and People We Meet on Vacation. They are beautiful covers, so they will still be displayed on my bookshelf. There is no way I'm getting rid of her books. Like, you cannot tell me they are not gorgeous, gorgeous covers. That was my kind of thing. And I also could not stand Sabrina. Sabrina absolutely did my bloody head in. No, it was a no from me. Then the next book I read was Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This book honestly surprised me. I went into this book thinking it was like, yes, a hockey romance, but cute, simple, straight to the point. The smut in this book was out of this world. I have never read so much smut in my entire life, let alone the detail of it. I was shook, like absolutely shook. Did I still enjoy this book? Absolutely. Am I going to read Wildfire? Absolutely. That does not take away from the book at all. However, I just felt like at some points they were unnecessary. Like for me, when I enjoy smut being added into books is when the character tension is just astronomical and it makes sense for it to happen. Here and there in a book it's fine, but it's more so when it's prevalent and understandable to the scene. This, I just felt like I was like, oh god, here comes another one. Like it's just bound to happen. But besides that, it follows Anastasia and Nate. Nate and Anastasia are both in college. They both live in Maple Hills, and Anastasia's dream is to be part of the skating team for Team USA. And Nate's dream obviously is to be a pro hockey player. This follows their individual paths. It's a dual perspective book, but also how they come together. I think what I really enjoyed about this book is, yes, there was a romance involved, but it was so refreshing and different. I've never read a book about a skater. I've read a book about a hockey player but not a skater, and honestly I just thought it was so different and fun, and I really liked Anastasia's character. Her character was just badass. Never read a girl character like that. I'm so used to the girl being a damsel in distress, a weak girl, something of that nature, which again is nothing wrong. Like I'm currently reading Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh, and Shannon's character I really enjoy reading about, but it was a breath of fresh air to read kind of a strong independent female character. Editing Sarah here, I just wanted to clarify one thing. When I was talking about Anastasia's character being badass and saying that I haven't read many characters with that similar personality appearance in a book kind of thing. I've read like Feyre from ACOTAR, Iris from Divine Rivals, Violet from Fourth Wing. Like there are so many girl characters that I have read that are very strong independent women, but what I meant by it was more so a romance. I think for a romance I get a lot more damsel in distress from my main female protagonist, so that's why I just want to clarify that, because I don't want anyone to interpret what I was saying as wrong. And when I say weak, I don't mean like they are weak, they are in need of someone. They just kind of are portrayed as they need that little bit of extra help rather than being fully independent of themselves. Like they need a man in their lives. So that's kind of what I meant by it. I just really wanted to clarify that. But enjoy the rest of the video. And I just loved it. And literally everyone was saying Nate gives off golden retriever vibes. Yeah, he is a golden retriever to the max. But honestly, I love it. I love the cover. I gave it a 4-star read. Honestly, would recommend reading. There's not much else I can say about it because I thoroughly enjoyed it. Then the final book, which again I don't have because I lent it to my nan, is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I have not read a war fantasy book ever. I've never read something like that, and it was so different and I absolutely adored it. I'm obsessed with it. If you don't know what it's about, it follows Iris and Winnow, two characters who work at the Gazette, and their rivalry kind of things. Then it kind of expands into how they become part of the war between two gods, and you learn about the gods, you learn about the war, kind of how it all began. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. Literally could not have given it a lower rating. Funny enough, I know people on the internet are either going, you're a Fourth Wing girly or a Divine Rivals girly. Like you love both but you love one more. No, I love them both so equally because in their own right they are two different types of fantasy, and there is no way I could love one more than the other. I can't with it. And I think I really enjoyed the newspaper aspect of this book, like reading about journalists, their journey, the typewriters. There was just so many different elements that I've never read in a fantasy. And I do want to preface, I haven't read many fantasies. Fantasy has just kind of been something I've picked up on in the past year, starting with ACOTAR, Vampire Academy. Like there's so many different subgenres of fantasy that I'm delving into at the moment, but I adored every single one, and I honestly am so excited for the next book in this series. Same with Fourth Wing. Can they come out now? That would be great. There was nothing bad about this book. If you are nervous about picking it up because of the hype, it is not overhyped. If anything, it is underhyped. I did not know, which is a good thing because I like to go into a book blind, but when people have been hyping up this book, I've either skipped over what it's about, like just them justifying why they think we should read it, or they just haven't said why because they're like, you need to figure it out for yourself. And I'm like, thank you so much. Super duper excited to read the next one in this series. But those are all the books for this month. Again, I had a very good reading month. I read 5 books this month, which is quite impressive for me, and I'm 40% of the way through Binding 13. I'm filming this on the 30th of September, and I just know I'm not going to finish Binding 13 today, but I'm 40% of the way through and I am enjoying it thus far. And I am 2 books ahead of my reading schedule for this year. I set a goal for 30 books and I definitely will surpass it. So I hope you all enjoyed my September wrap up. Thank you for taking the time to sit and watch my video. If you would like to know what I am planning to read in October, check out my last video. That is where I did my little prompt jar to pick out my reads. And I hope to see you all in my next video very, very soon. Bye guys.